produce like give somebody that's really
Well, I have 9 o'clock. How about you? Good morning. My name is Jim Richards. I'm the state's Information Security Officer, and in my peer group we call each other Chief Information Security Officers, or CISOs, and maybe you've heard that term before. I'm happy to welcome you all to the 5th annual October security event that we put on. We had 6 years ago a sort of a lunch and learn. A small group of people showed up, and we decided at that point it was probably a good idea to do something a little larger. And so we've had 5 wonderful events, in my opinion. And so this is really to commemorate the fact that October is Cyber and Information Security Awareness Month. And it's a national kind of phenomenon. There are events like this that will be taking place all over the country during this month. I'd like to welcome our streaming audience. We have a virtual audience with us. There's a little tiny camera here, high definition camera with a microphone on it. And hello out there. I want to thank all of you who set up viewing rooms. There are several classroom type viewing situations. We don't know how many of you are out there, but we're glad you came to join us today. As you know, or some of you know, I lead a group of 10 security professionals, and at this time I'd like those of you, I think there are 8 of us at the event today, to stand up and wave your hands and be recognized. We will have a short break after Tony Sager speaks, but if you need a restroom in the meantime, they're out the doors and to the right. The national theme for Cybersecurity Month is cybersecurity as a shared responsibility. For this event, we usually come up with our own little theme. One year we were trying to help everybody become a human firewall, and another year we were trying to help everyone think of themselves as a risk manager. And this year our theme is, what are you willing to lose? Trust? Money? The consequences of a breach to the security of data, and we see too many examples of this in the news these days, can be loss of confidence and trust, loss of huge amounts of money, loss of unrecoverable time to repair from the loss and to mitigate the problems, and a whole lot of unwanted attention from the press. Each of us, as we weigh our commitment to supporting security policies and best practices, should reflect on the value of not having a significant breach. The value of not having a significant breach. What are you willing to lose suggests that if you are not committed to the exercise of reasonable care in the use of systems and data, there is a greater probability of real and painful consequences. There can be life-threatening outcomes. Today and each year when we meet at this event, we have a specific goal to re-energize your commitment to doing the right thing. And this includes going back to your workplace and home to your families and sharing the renewed insights with those you know who do not attend today. What are you willing to lose? Of course, I've said it before and I will again today. Because you're here, you're probably part of the solution rather than part of the problem. So our hope is that you will leave here and help elevate others to your level of concern. Remember, information in cybersecurity is a shared responsibility. We have good news and bad news for you today. The bad news is the threats are getting more severe. The bad guys are getting badder. They're getting more bad. They know more about how to do damage, and they're doing their best to do that, whether it's financial damage or web defacement or get political attention. Bad guys are out there, and they're intent on doing what they want to do. The good news is we're better informed about how to identify and mitigate risk. There are things that can be done to reduce vulnerabilities, and we're trying every day to find those things and to do those things that can reduce vulnerability. Collaboration has improved in West Virginia since we last met a year ago, and that's significant. And incidents are being reported more frequently and more promptly. Since March, we had 25 incidents reported. 19 of those were privacy-related incidents, and Privacy Office has taken, and always has taken, an active role in addressing privacy problems. We've had 42 emails that were forwarded to the OT, Office of Technology, phishing email address. That's otphishing@wb.gov. And by getting these emails and being made aware of these phishing exploits, we can either block the email and or block the IP address, the website to which the victims are being lured. And they are very effective phishing emails. They very much can confuse people who aren't really on their toes. With that, let's begin. Senator Rockefeller heard we were holding this event, and he had hoped he could be here. For various reasons, he was unable to attend today, but he did make a video for you today. I want to mention that Senator Rockefeller has probably served the people of West Virginia for over 40 years, starting at age 27 as a VISTA volunteer in Emmons, West Virginia. Following that, he was in our House of Delegates, he was our Secretary of State, and he was the governor of West Virginia from 1974 to 1976 to 1984. He's chairman of the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, and also the chairman of the Health Care Subcommittee on Finance. He's a member of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and also a member of the Committee on Veterans Affairs. Senator Rockefeller is one of the lead supporters of legislation that would set cybersecurity standards for critical infrastructure companies and would encourage companies and the government to share more information about cyber attacks. Let's now share the message to you from Senator Rockefeller.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Jim, for that kind introduction. As the chairman of the Senate Commerce Committee, making sure that you are protected from online cyber threats is one of my top priorities. Unfortunately, our computers and computer networks are constantly under threat of attack. You have seen the headlines. You may even know a friend or colleague who had sensitive information stolen from their computer or had a network disruption because their server was hacked into. It's a dirty business, and it's all over the world. In the current online environment, we all need to be constantly aware of lurking cybersecurity dangers that threaten to disrupt our daily lives. Along with protecting private citizens and businesses from potential cyber threats, I'm committed to protecting your privacy online. Every day we use the internet for fast, easy access to information, and we can get online almost everywhere, thanks to the convenience of our smartphones, tablets, and computers. We must remember that these platforms are not entirely secure, that while we are online, companies are legally tracking and collecting massive amounts of personal information on all of us. And they're doing it without our explicit permission or even our awareness. They are collecting information about our browsing records, internet search habits, online purchases, and our social media posts. They know what websites we have visited by tracking our every move with small data files known as cookies, as well as other advanced technologies. Cookies are a gateway to virtually every move you make online. Some companies claim cookies allow them to tailor their services to your interests, but in reality, they're used in very troubling ways. Everyone deserves to be protected in their privacy online, and I believe that you should have more control over whether your data on internet usage can be collected in the first place. I introduced a bill in Congress, and it's called the Do Not Track Online Act, which would empower internet users by giving them the power to stop the collection of their online data. Simply put, companies would be obliged to honor a consumer's request not to track their personal data. I think that's a good thing. Computer companies don't like that. Servers don't like that. I believe that privacy is a right. I don't think it's a luxury. I think it's a right. and I want to make sure that West Virginians are always protected online.
Well, thank you, Senator Rockefeller. Can those of you in the back hear okay? Did you get most of that? Good. Gail Gibbons joined the Office of Technology in the middle of last year to be our CTO. She found a lot of things needed to be taken care of, and she hit the ground running. She's been a very busy woman, to say at the least. Under West Virginia Code, Gail Gibbons actually has all the information and cybersecurity responsibility that is associated with the CISO job, my job. So it's no big surprise that Gail has a genuine interest in the success of what we do on our team. Having Gail's support means a lot to us, and over the last year, we've seen some very positive progress in the form of strong collaboration with partner organizations that Gail has fostered and that you'll probably hear a little more about this morning. One of these partnerships is with the West Virginia National Guard, and Gail will be introducing Lieutenant Colonel Patrick Chart from the Guard after her remarks. We are truly fortunate to have a CTO who is a strong advocate for the information and cybersecurity. Let me welcome Gail Gibbons to the podium.
Good morning. Good morning. I try to keep my security team happy because, as Jim just said, I have the responsibility for all this in code. So I guess if they don't do their job really well, I go to jail. And orange is not my color. So I just wanted to come in this morning and thank all of you for being here and for supporting this effort. There isn't a month that goes by that we don't hear of another terrible thing that's happened with a company or a government network, and loads of records are exposed, and maybe some of those records are your credit cards, and terrible things happen. And my team can work all day monitoring the network, working with the Fusion Center, doing all the things they do. And if we don't have the assistance of all of you and the folks who are listening out on the internet, we're working with one hand tied behind our back. There are some 50% of breaches occur based on some end user activity. So, the bad guys are sitting there, and as Jim said, they're getting badder. So the badder guys are sitting there, they have all day, every day, to figure out how to fool you. And because you have real jobs and real lives, you only have a few minutes every day to figure out how not to be fooled. So it's really important that you're here today to get new information and then to go back and share that with your employees, your coworkers, all of those rest of the folks that you influence, so that you can help our team continue to keep the state's network safe, because it is critical. I also do want to introduce Lieutenant Chart. You may remember about this time last year, my team was called down to Louisiana to help restore the network in Louisiana after Hurricane Isaac. What they really needed our team to do was help get their food stamps program up and running, because after the storm you had even a bigger need than normal, and the system was down. So our folks went down to help restore that technology so they could take care of their citizens. It was the first time our team had been asked to do anything like that. So it became obvious that in times of crisis, we have to do more than just go and clear the roads and make people safe and get water to them and all those kinds of things. And the National Guard is involved in that too. They've been keeping us physically safe for years, and they now know that they also have to move into keeping us safe from a technology standpoint. And Lieutenant Chart is at the forefront of that effort in West Virginia. He has helped our team. We did an analysis of our network. We've got a report of some of the things that we need to be working on, and we are actively pursuing those things. We've already fixed as many of them as we could, and continuing to look at the others. He also has been very active in other things around the state. I think he'll probably talk to you some about the Boy Scout Jamboree. For those of you who are not native West Virginians, we had just a major event here in West Virginia, which will become an annual event. Some 43,000 boys in one place at one time, which just boggles my mind as the mother of two. So I think that Lieutenant Chart will help describe all the efforts that went into that. From a security standpoint, it's pretty massive. So please join me in welcoming Lieutenant Colonel Patrick Chart.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing?
Good morning.
First of all, I'll tell you, I I once had the privilege of following Senator Rockefeller and speaking after him. Unfortunately, the podium was set for him, so it looked like, you know, a 10-year-old boy trying to peek over the top of the podium at the time. So I appreciate his words here today. I can tell you from personal experience that Senator Rockefeller takes cybersecurity of our nation and its networks and systems as a very high priority. So that's really wonderful to hear his remarks this morning. Thank you, Gail, for the introduction. I appreciate that very much. One of the things that I wanted to talk about here today was primarily partnering. As Gail mentioned, we were asked to come in and to conduct a cybersecurity assessment for the West Virginia State Executive Domain, and really a wonderful process, not just actually accomplishing the assessment itself, but getting to really meet folks from the Office of Technology, not only within the security team, but also networking folks, etc., and to get to know them and to work with them really created some good foundational relationships that I think we're going to be building upon going forward. And one of the things that has come out of this, we've had some discussions about cybersecurity of the whole of state government. Now, what do I mean by that, whole of state government? Well, as you know, state government is divided amongst various different groups. You have your different branches, obviously, your legislative branch, judicial branch, your executive branch. You have various state agencies that may fall in amongst all those different groups and bodies. And one of the things that we've seen from, you know, an outsider, somewhat of an outsider looking in, is kind of the fractured nature when it comes to cybersecurity. And one of the things that collectively, I think a lot of us within state government cybersecurity would like to see all of us to be able to come together and to work in a collaborative manner and a partnered manner in order to help ensure and improve the cybersecurity of state government information systems and networks. Consequently, one of the things that we're doing is we are in the process of creating the West Virginia Security Practitioners Working Group. This working group, we hope to be chaired under the West Virginia Information Technology Council. And what we hope this group will be able to do is, one, to recommend cybersecurity policies for state government networks and systems. Notice I said recommend, I didn't say set. Obviously that would be done by somebody else, but we're looking to basically create a forum where we can discuss these types of things, kind of vet them with the agencies that are represented there, and hopefully go forward with policies and practices that everybody could agree on are necessary to ensure the cybersecurity of state information systems and networks. Another thing that we hope to do is to conduct outreach and educational programs that enhances collaboration amongst state agencies for the enrichment of state government cybersecurity and the sharing of best practices. I'm here to tell you, in the interaction that I've had thus far with a lot of state government agencies, a lot of you guys are doing some really good stuff. Each agency kind of has their strengths to a certain degree, and I think it's important that those strengths be shared amongst all state government to ensure that, you know, somewhat of a common core skill set amongst everyone. You have a lot of things that you can learn from each other is the point, and we hope that the Cybersecurity Practitioners Working Group can help enhance those efforts. Another thing that we're looking to do is to enhance and enable interagency information sharing of cybersecurity vulnerabilities, threats, and risks to state government information systems and networks. Again, it's all about taking information that one agency may have and sharing that with a collective whole. I know a lot of you participate in a lot of information sharing forums, be it MSISAC, be it SANS, or other institutions that share information on threats and vulnerabilities. However, you know, collectively we'd like to see, again, somewhat of a commonality amongst all state government agencies. Finally, the last purpose that we're looking for the Security Practitioners Working Group is really to provide a forum where we can study and recommend an interagency framework for cybersecurity incident response. Again, when you look at a major cybersecurity incident that may go on, in order to respond to that incident, you're going to need resources from various state agencies to come together to be able to respond to that. Because you all share, sometimes your networks are interconnected together, or you're sharing a common platform to get to the internet as a whole. And it's going to take all of you, really, to be able to respond in a cohesive manner. And we hope that this group can help create the framework that can lead to a cybersecurity incident response capability that encompasses the whole of state government. I realize that those 4 items that are there may be somewhat of a lofty goal. However, that's what we're looking to do. I was honored to be asked to be kind of the interim chair for the Security Practitioners Working Group until we can get a formal charter established and have formal elections. What I would tell you is our next meeting is scheduled to be held the 8th of November. That's the 8th of November from 2 to 4 p.m. in the Capitol Room in Building 7 at the Capitol Complex. That's the 8th of November, 2 to 4 p.m. in the Capitol Room of Building 7 in the Capitol Complex. If your agency is not represented there, and thus far we've had really good participation from the groups that have come forward, if your agency is not represented, I encourage you to come. Because we don't have our formal charter yet, we don't have a formal list of all the members, it's an open invitation today. So I ask you to please come and participate in that, going forward. Last thing I'll talk about real quick, as Gail mentioned, the National Scout Jamboree, a wonderful event, life-changing event, not only for the boys and girls that participated in that event, but also for the people involved even behind the scenes. You had over 40,000 scouts and adult leaders that participated during the time the event was going on, 3rd largest city in the state of West Virginia, really in the middle of some of the most rural parts of our state. From a public safety, communications, and IT standpoint, which is the part that I happen to play a role in, it was the most complex and the largest event by far that we had done to date. Just to throw some numbers at you, over 1,800 plus radios, 273 different distinct talk groups or channels on 8 different radio networks were in use during this event. Now, from a planner's perspective, which was my job, getting all that to work seamlessly, I lost a lot of sleep, I'll tell you that right now. But it worked extremely well. The main muscle mover from a public safety standpoint was West Virginia Statewide Interoperable Radio Network, or SIREN. The SIREN network performed flawlessly during that event and really highlighted its capabilities to enable interagency communications during a major event. So Scout Jamboree, life-changing not only for the people involved, but for me as well personally. Just a really good event for all of us. Our next speaker I'd like to introduce. Governor Joe Manchin appointed Jimmy Jeanette, Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Management for the state of West Virginia in September 2005. In his capacity as director, Mr. Jeanette has operational and planning responsibility for the state's response to all emergency and disaster operations and consequence management for events involving weapons of mass destruction, natural disasters, and terrorism. He was also selected by his fellow Homeland Security advisors to serve on the executive committee of the Governor's Homeland Security Advisors Committee and chairs their interoperable committee as well. Folks, please welcome Mr. Jimmy Jeanette.
Well, good morning. I'd like to thank Jim for asking me to be here this morning. You've already heard from some pretty distinguished speakers about the importance of cybersecurity, and over the last year and a half, the interagency cooperation relating to cybersecurity has increased greatly within the state. And we've seen across the country larger numbers of attacks on these networks. And I think you're going to see from some of the things you'll hear today the real need for the continued vigilance. Senator Rockefeller, as you heard a few minutes ago, is very much involved in a lot of the technology efforts and communication efforts across the country. He authored what was known as S911, which was a Senate bill to design the first national public safety broadband network. And one of the key components of that network is how are we going to protect it when we open it up and have it run applications across the internet and other networks to make sure that the network that public safety relies on is protected. So that's a key component of one of the things that we're looking at now. I currently serve on the Public Safety Advisory Committee for FirstNet, which is the federal agency that is developing that national network. So there's a lot of things that relate to cybersecurity. So the remarks I'm going to make this morning are kind of general related to cybersecurity, but I know you're going to hear some pretty good presentations today on some specifics. Cyberspace is woven into the fabric of our everyday lives. According to recent estimates, this global network of networks encompasses more than 2 billion people with at least 12 billion computers and devices, including global positioning systems, mobile phones, satellites, data routers, ordinary desktop computers, industrial control computers that run power plants, water systems, and more. While this increased connectivity has led to significant transformations and advances across our country and around the world, it has also increased the importance and complexity of our shared risk. Our daily life, economic vitality, and national security depend on cyberspace. A vast array of interdependent IT networks, systems, services, and resources are critical to communications, travel, powering our homes, running our economy, and obtaining government services. No country, industry, community, or individual is immune to cyber risks. The word cybersecurity itself encompasses protection against a broad range of malicious activity, from denial of service attacks to thefts of valuable trade secrets to intrusions against government networks and systems that can control our critical infrastructure. The threat posed by malicious cyber actors to the United States is one of the top homeland and national security concerns. Private industry, state, local, tribal, territorial, international, and federal partners must synchronize efforts to effectively and efficiently combat these threats. A key step toward achieving this is for our federal government agencies and state and local partners to work collaboratively in executing their distinct but complementary missions. Cyber incidents are defined as those events that impair the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of electronic information, information systems, services, or networks. The Department of Homeland Security is responsible for coordinating the national protection, prevention, mitigation of, and recovery from cyber incidents, overseeing the protection of the federal network domain, and providing assistance and expertise to public and private sector owners and operators of critical infrastructure. Most cyber incidents are a violation of U.S. federal law, and as such, there are a variety of law enforcement agencies which investigate certain cyber incidents. Cybercrime, like any other crime, should be reported to appropriate law enforcement investigative authorities at the federal, state, or local level, depending on the scope of the crime. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, the U.S. Secret Service, and other federal law enforcement agencies share responsibility for investigating cyber crimes. While national level coordination is a key part of securing the nation, collaboration at the local level is essential. The FBI operates cyber task forces, and all 56 field offices focused exclusively on cybersecurity threats, including national security and criminal operations. I'm sure you'll hear a very informative presentation by Special Agent Evan Patterson this afternoon. He's a tremendous asset to us in this state, and to you in the event you experience an attack. He has a wealth of knowledge on a variety of subjects related to cyber and is always willing to help assist if something happens. The U.S. Secret Service operates 29 domestic electronic crime task forces across the United States to prevent, detect, and investigate electronic crimes. In addition, the Secret Service operates the National Computer Forensics Institute to train local officials on investigating computer crimes. DHS's protective security advisors and cybersecurity advisors are also available to critical infrastructure and private entities throughout the nation. Here in West Virginia, an important resource for you is the West Virginia Intelligence Fusion Center. The Fusion Center can serve as a clearinghouse for information sharing, not only related to cyber, but other critical issues involving a need to share information regarding critical infrastructure. We're currently working on developing an information sharing portal for critical infrastructure information, and that can share cyber information as well. And it's going to be a key resource to get that information out to those who have a need for it. Earlier this year, former Secretary Napolitano said an incident on the scale of September 11th could happen immediately. The Defense Science Board went even further, saying coming cyber attacks could present an existential threat to the country. In his report to Congress on March the 12th, 2013, the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, outlined how, and I quote, "We're in a major transformation because our critical infrastructures, economy, personal lives, and even basic understanding of interaction with the world are becoming more intertwined with digital technologies and the internet. Think about the smartphones we carry every day. We rely on them to tell us where we are, where we need to be, how we keep track of our families, how we navigate to different places, how we shop, and numerous other applications, and we've only touched the tip of what their capabilities will be for the future. These devices will help monitor our health, pay our bills, control our homes, and expand our lives. Unfortunately, cybersecurity represents a threat far more diverse than most any other we face. While nation states like Iran present a significant cyber threat, the greatest cyber threat from a nation like comes from China, where hacking stands as an official policy. Just recently, the Chief of Staff of the People's Liberation Army put the cyber threat into perspective when he suggested such an attack could be as serious as a nuclear bomb. Even though in his report to Congress, Director Clapper said advanced cyber actors such as Russia and China are unlikely to launch such a devastating attack against the United States outside of a military conflict or crisis that they believe that threatens their vital interest, the threat alone should be enough to garner attention of the information technology, homeland security, and emergency management communities. In West Virginia, we're also very lucky to have an outstanding cyber capability in our West Virginia National Guard. You heard Lieutenant Colonel Chard talk about some of their capabilities. Because of the other missions that they can do, we have an emergency capability here in West Virginia that can respond to a cyber attack the same way that they can to other man-made or natural disasters. So how do we address these vulnerabilities and consequences? Emergency managers stand increasingly concerned regarding the interconnectedness of the threat in everyday life in America. Citizens can evacuate in anticipation of a hurricane or a flood. Stronger building codes and safe rooms can protect lives in anticipation of earthquakes or tornadoes. But as we consider the breadth and depth of our reliance on the cyber infrastructure, the concerns mount and could easily overwhelm state or federal assets. Consider this short list of potential hazards and vulnerabilities. Computer-controlled dams, protecting our low-lying communities. Traffic systems, utilized to evacuate a population. Banking systems ranging from Wall Street to basic online transfers and ATM withdrawals. The national airline and air traffic control networks. Complex and simple communication systems, from emergency operations centers to the basic smartphone, national power grids and nuclear power plants, emergency alert systems and 911 systems, and water supply networks and waste management systems. We must remain vigilant. We cannot relax our guard. We cannot assume odd occurrences are just coincidence, and we must make sure we're prepared. Remember, cybersecurity is a shared responsibility. Cybersecurity represents the most complex and advanced threat we as a nation face. The challenge for all of us will be to examine it through a new prism, or we will fail if we respond the same way as always. This is not a traditional threat and reaches across sectors of our society which have never before worked together. Cyber threats can only be addressed through collaboration, planning, and a deep understanding of the potential consequences. For if we fail either through prevention or response, the impacts truly could be disastrous. I want to thank you for taking a few minutes this morning to listen to me. I know you will receive some very valuable information today that will help you do your jobs better. And just remember, when all else fails, if you see something, say something. Governor Tomlin truly understands the threat to the state and our country with cybersecurity. He has had several briefings both here in the state and at the national level concerning the threats that are posed in the cyber world. He takes those very seriously, and he's tasked us to maintain and make sure that we're ever vigilant to protect the state's infrastructure. And I mentioned earlier the expanding cooperation and collaboration. And I can't say enough how important that is for everybody to have a part in this cybersecurity. I'd like now to introduce Sean Hill, who is the regional representative from the governor's office. He's here this morning to read a proclamation from the governor.
Thank you, Jimmy. Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here this morning on behalf of Governor Tomlin to read the proclamation. Whereas we recognize the vital role that technology has in our daily lives and the future of our nation, whereby today many citizens, schools, libraries, businesses, and other organizations use the internet for a variety of tasks, including keeping in contact with family and friends, managing finances, conducting research, enhancing education, and conducting business. And whereas critical infrastructure sectors are increasingly reliant on information systems to support financial services, energy, telecommunications, transportation, healthcare, and emergency response systems, and whereas the use of the internet as the primary and secondary school levels in this state enhances the education of youth by providing access to online educational and research materials, and at institutions of higher education, the use of information technology is integral to teaching, learning, research, outreach, and service. And whereas internet users and our information infrastructure face an increasing threat of malicious cyber attack, loss of privacy from spyware and adware, and significant financial and personal privacy losses due to the identity theft and fraud. And whereas the U.S. Department of Homeland Security has established the Office of Cybersecurity and Communications and devoted resources within it solely to support the strengthening and security of the country's cyber infrastructure at the state, local, tribal, and territorial levels, and whereas the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center was established in January of 2003 to provide a collaborative mechanism to help states and local governments enhance cybersecurity, and the West Virginia Office of Technology, Office of the Information Security Controls and Compliance provides a comprehensive approach to help enhance the security of this state. And whereas the Stop, Think, Connect campaign is a national effort coordinated by a coalition of private companies, nonprofits, and government organizations to help all citizens stay safer and more secure online. And whereas the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center, the National Association of State Chief Information Officers, and the National Cybersecurity Alliance have declared October as Information and Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and all citizens are encouraged to visit these sites, as well as www.technology.wv.gov/security and Stop, Think, Connect to learn more about cybersecurity and put that knowledge into practice in their homes, schools, workplaces, and businesses, Now therefore be it resolved that I, Earl Ray Tomlin, Governor of the great state of West Virginia, do hereby proclaim October 2013 as Information and Cybersecurity Awareness Month in the Mountain State and encourage all citizens to join me in this observance. Thank you all so much.